Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of A Millennial Mind, a podcast where I sit down each week and discuss all things from mindset, self-growth to entrepreneurship and some extraordinary stories. But this week, I'm actually recording another solo episode all about security and relationships. Now, I know it's a bit weird because normally I do my solo episodes at home. This week, I'm actually back in the studio rather than recording this solo episode at home because I'm doing a whole setup there. But today, I'm going to be talking about security and relationships because becoming secure is a topic that I get asked about a lot, particularly in my relationship because trust me, I've come a long way. Modern day dating is difficult and building connections in relationships can be really tough. And so I know that a lot of you can feel really lost and really confused. And I just want to share my tips and advice onto how to actually become secure because it took me a long time and I wish I knew this information earlier. My goal this year is to reach 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I know that sounds crazy, but YouTube has been such a priority of mine this year. And we've grown such an amazing community and family, which I am beyond excited about. I am truly grateful for each and every one of you who watch every week. And if you enjoy these episodes and want to see more of me, of how you can grow, don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss out on my new weekly episodes. Some of your favorite topics so far have been relationships and love, self-development, neuroscience and therapy. And I promise to keep listening to all of your comments and your feedback and do what I can to bring you content that you love every single week. This episode is also sponsored by Hinge. And as we wrap up this year, it's such a great time to pause and reflect on all the ways that we've grown. Every year brings new experiences, lessons, and changes. And all of those moments, the good, the challenging, shape us into who we are today. And just like we set intentions for ourselves, our dating intentions evolve too. So if you're on Hinge, now's the perfect time to take it slow this holiday season and really think about your own journey from the past year. Refreshing your profile can be a great way to express who you are now and what you're really looking for in the year ahead. So why don't you take some time today to update your photos, reflect your recent adventures, add a new prompt that speaks to the intentions that you've set, or maybe just adjust your dating goals as you embrace who you've become. One prompt you might like to consider is, this year I really want to. It's a great way to share a piece of yourself with other people on the app who are also reflecting on their own journey from the last year. So let's head into the new year by showing up as our most authentic selves, embracing the change and connecting with people who really align with who we are today. So take some time today, update the app, update your prompts, and let me know how you get on. Okay, today now, it's time to talk about how you become secure in your relationships. When you're in a toxic relationship, trust me, I know it feels impossible to escape. You think I'm stuck and I'm never going to feel happy or secure again. And this is just who I am. But I'm here to tell you that is absolutely not true. I've been there. I used to feel so insecure in all my relationships. I was constantly anxious. I was overthinking everything. I was worrying about things that weren't even happening. I doubted myself for so long and I focused my energy on other people constantly. And I became so self-critical that I believed like everything was to do with me. And I thought I'm never going to change. The truth is though, I really didn't trust myself and I had absolutely no self-belief in my abilities and my strengths and who I was. So I didn't know how to set boundaries. And these were the two key reasons why I couldn't feel insecure. But when I worked on these areas, everything really changed. And today I'm going to share exactly how you can build trust, listen to your gut, trust your intuition, and create a safe emotional space to heal and thrive in your relationships. I know when you're in this and you're probably listening to me, you're thinking, yeah, okay, that worked for you, but it's not going to work on me. But just trust me when I say I never thought I'd be someone who was comfortable with all the things that I'm experiencing right now. So I really want you, if you can, to take a little notepad, take a little piece of paper, take a pen and write some things down here and really reflect on your own experiences. Now, the foundation of any secure relationship is trust. And here's the thing. Trust isn't about trusting someone, okay? This is a misconception. Trust is about trusting yourself. So on the piece of paper that you've got right now, ask yourself these two questions. Do I trust my instincts? And do I believe in my ability to make good decisions for myself? I just want to pause and ask you all to do that. Do I trust my instincts? And do I believe in my ability to make good decisions for myself? For a long time, I really didn't. I doubted everything. I second guessed my choices, my emotions, and even my gut feelings. And I know now I constantly talk about intuition, and it's because I realized how powerful it is. Okay. Growing up, I never really listened to it because I wasn't really secure and confident in myself. But did you know that scientists actually call our gut a second brain? I probably sound like a broken record because I've talked about intuition on so many of my podcasts. And as women, especially, we often have an incredibly strong gut instinct, but society teaches us to ignore it and prioritize logic. And when we do, we lose the trust in ourselves. For me, rebuilding that trust was about listening to my intuition. Even when it felt uncomfortable, I started fine-tuning those gut feelings in situations where I'd usually overthink. And over time, that connection with myself became stronger and I began to trust myself again. The key thing here, and I know so many will be thinking, what on earth does this mean? But the key thing here is that when you trust yourself, it's so much easier to trust others. You'll recognize who's safe to let in and who isn't. And that's where security really, really begins. So the key thing here is really start to hone in on your gut. And you're probably wondering, well, how on earth do I do that? And I would say the number one thing that allowed me to hone in on my gut was spending time alone. The problem why so many of us don't listen to our gut is because we're listening to everyone else's opinions. Oh, what does my mum think? What does my dad think? What do my friend thinks? What does society think? What do you think? In situations, we all know the answers to ourselves. I've said this before so many times. Whenever you're struggling with something, sit alone with yourself and I promise you, you will come up with the answer. The problem that we do now is we ask every single person in our life, we forget what we truly want and we don't live our life in the way that we really wanted to. So the number one thing I would say is start to trust your instincts, start to hone in on your intuition, start to trust your gut. And the way to do that is by spending time alone. So part one is about honing in your intuition and trusting your gut. Now that you're reconnecting with your intuition, the next step is listening to and owning your feelings. This is going to sound so obvious, but trust me, this is the most important step. Because let's be honest, it's one thing to know what your gut is telling you, but it's another thing entirely to accept it and act on those feelings. For example, in a relationship, if I feel jealous, my instinct might be to lash out or blame my partner. But instead of reacting, if I can stop and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? Where is this jealousy coming from? Not only is it going to give me the tools and the understanding of my feelings, but it's going to also allow me to communicate that with my partner. So I want to pause there. I want to ask you these two questions, write them down. The first question is, why am I feeling this way? Whenever you're going through something, the number one thing you can do is understand why you're feeling this way. The best thing that I've learned is that every single emotion is neutral. The best thing I learned in therapy was the fact that the way in which something makes me feel is on me. It's not on the other person. So if someone says something to you, it's actually on you. And when you look at that, it can seem really harsh, but it allows you to take that responsibility. Whenever I felt insecure about something, I've always thought, why am I feeling this way? Right? If someone hasn't messaged when they're out, let's say, for example, and I'm feeling really insecure about it, and they haven't messaged me all night, I could think I'm feeling this way because I associate not messaging with not caring. And if they don't care, they don't love me. And if they don't love me, then they don't want to be with me. And that would be my insecurity that I was feeling. But for someone else, they might look at it as when that person is not messaging me, they're having a great time with their friends, they're being present, and I love that that's one of their values, because when they're with me, they're not messaging anyone else, and I know that I love that that's their values. Does that make sense? It's really, really important to dissect, why am I feeling this way? What has it invoked in me? What assumptions am I making, right? Take a minute to write that down. You can reflect on a past experience here as well, if that helps you. Really start to think about, why was I feeling that way? What was it bringing up for me? What was I linking it to? What assumptions was I making? What stories was I telling myself? What beliefs were coming up? Now, the next question is, where is this jealousy coming from? Now, a lot of the times, we like to surface level answer this question, right? Oh, well, this came from, my last relationship, or this came from, this random friendship, or this came from something that I don't really know about. But if you really, really think about why you're feeling really jealous, and often this roots into childhood, and this could be a whole other therapy session in itself, it could really, really help you understand and also really explain it to your partner, which is actually my next point. I'll come on to that in a minute, but I just want to say jealousy or insecurity is a sign of something deeper. Maybe it's a fear of abandonment from a past experience, or maybe it's a boundary that hasn't really been communicated. And I'm going to share another example, okay? If I feel insecure about my partner going on a trip, for example, instead of accusing them or bottling it up, I can own my feelings and say, I feel anxious because my last partner cheated on me during a trip like this. This isn't about you, but I just want to be honest about why I feel this way and why I'm just feeling so nervous and perhaps in a bad mood and feeling really upset. And I think the key thing here is that when you own it, you can then have the kind of dialogue with yourself and with your partner, and you can create a space for understanding. And that leads me to the next point, which is the importance of having a safe emotional space. If you don't have a safe emotional space in your relationship, in my opinion, it's so hard to change your attachment style or grow together. And that's because I'm someone who just has to talk things out. And so for me, the difference is, imagine if I told my partner, I feel insecure about you going on a boys' trip because of something that's happened in my past, and they responded being like, you're a psychopath, you're overreacting, maybe your ex cheated on you because you're such a lunatic. That is not a safe space. That means I cannot even share how I'm feeling, and I have to bottle it up. And for someone like me, I literally have to express everything all the time. I have to get things off my chest. It genuinely wouldn't work. If you're in a relationship with someone who does create a safe space, they would respond by saying, I understand where you're coming from. I'd never do that to you. What can I do to make you feel more comfortable? That is a safe emotional space. Now, research from the Gottman Institute highlights that relationships thrive when partners create an environment where emotions are met with understanding and support. For some people, they need to talk about their feelings. They need to talk about the things that they're struggling with. And this really, really helps. Research from the Gottman Institute actually highlights that relationships thrive when partners can create an environment where emotions are met with understanding and support. So Dr. John Gottman studies show that successful couples turn towards each other in bids for connection, even in moments of conflict. Now, Esther Perel actually talked about this, how she turns conflict into connection. It's an amazing podcast with Jay Shetty. You have to listen to it. But it's really, really true. A lot of the time when we are feeling insecure, when we're feeling upset, when we're feeling frustrated, we can actually talk to our partners about that in a safe environment and allow us to connect over that. In my last relationship, I was never able to have these open dialogues, and therefore we weren't able to learn and grow together. I mean, I was significantly younger and I wasn't doing this podcast and I wasn't learning all these amazing things and reading all the time. But I do feel like if I was able to have those conversations, they would have been thrown back in my face in an argument. So if I said something like, hey, listen, I'm feeling insecure about this because of X, Y, and Z, in an argument, they would have been thrown in my face. That's not a safe environment. Whilst compared to now, I've made sure that I create this dialogue. I have these conversations. I actually share the importance of both of us sharing this insecurity. And that's why even on my podcast, you'll see that I contribute a lot to the conversation. I won't just be asking the guest a question. I will often share my experiences and my own insecurities and my flaws, because what that does is allow the other person to open up. I think so often we're so scared to share things because we think the other person's going to throw it in our face. And like I said in my previous relationship, I think that might have been the case. I can't say 100% because we didn't do that often, but I think it might have been the case. Whilst in some relationships, it allows other people to really open up and you get to have this lovely dialogue between you. I just want to say one caveat to my example earlier. Let's say you're feeling really insecure about your partner going on holiday on like this boys trip. They're going to get drunk and then go to Ibiza and they're going to have this crazy time. And you're thinking, oh my God, the last time that my boyfriend did that, he cheated on me. The solution isn't to not let them go. The solution isn't to make them feel guilty. The solution isn't for them to say, oh, by the way, because you feel insecure, I won't go. The solution is, like I mentioned before, the solution is for them to ask you what they can do to make you feel better. Because let me just reiterate, if they don't go, if you stop them, that's not being secure. That's still being anxiously attached, and that's being controlling. You saying, oh, don't go because it's making me anxious, and if you don't go, then I'll be secure. That doesn't work. You have to find a way in which you can be secure, and that's why these conversations are so important. Often when you say things out loud, you realize that it's not true anymore. Often when you say things out loud, you realize, oh my God, that was so stupid. And that's why I'm saying it's good to have a conversation with yourself and with the other person. If you're saying, oh, I think I feel really insecure because I watched this TV program 5 years ago ago and all these people were cheating on Ibiza and that's why I think you're going to cheat in Ibiza. Sometimes saying it aloud can be like, why did I think that? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. Also, maybe having a conversation with your partner would be like, yeah, honey, I'm not like that though. I'm not on that show, and automatically you can be like, oh yeah. So this is why I'm saying it's so, so, so important to have a partner who listens and reassures you and allows you to heal and allows you to grow. And this brings me on to my next point, which is all about healing. Now, every single person in the whole world is talking about healing. But let me tell you, healing is a journey and it's not linear. For me, it was about rebuilding my self-confidence and learning to love myself again, which sometimes I still really feel like I need to do. In my past relationships, I was so anxious when my partner went out. I'm going to be really honest and transparent. I couldn't sleep. I was constantly checking my phone. I felt completely out of control. And looking back, I truly do not recognize that version of myself anymore. Now I'm in a relationship that I feel secure. I actually encourage him to go out and spend time with his friends because I trust him and I trust myself. And I'm just like, why did I ever worry? Like, what was I really worrying about? And this is where I'm saying building that self-confidence starts with these small actions. So I want you to write down a couple of these points, okay? I want you to, number one, celebrate your wins, no matter how small. Number two, surround yourself with people who lift you up, not people who are winding you up about your partner, not people who are also complaining and moaning and just draining you, People who are happy and people also are happy in their relationships. People are also encouraging you to be secure in your relationships. I think that's a point actually that no one really wants to talk about, but it is true. And the third point is practicing self-care that's meaningful to you. The thing in my previous relationship is that I was never really that happy to spend time alone on like a Friday night or a Saturday night. I've always been somebody who likes to spend time alone in the weekdays, but when it would come to like a Friday or Saturday night and they would be going out and I would be staying at home, I would just think like, oh my God, I'm such a loser. Now, I cannot tell you, okay, when someone cancels a plan on me, when I don't have to go somewhere, I feel so happy. I literally wish I could stay at home 24/7, but I can't because of work. I have to go to events to meet brands. I have to go to events to find guests for this podcast. I have to come to the studio to record the podcast. I also really do enjoy seeing my friends, but I'll be honest, I only see them like once a month or once every 6 weeks because life just does get super, super, super busy. And I really value that time at home. There are so many times in my relationship now where I'll say to Nicole, you go, I'm going to stay at home and I run myself a bath, okay? I sit in my gown, I watch TV. Sometimes I just get a little kombucha. I get kombucha, I get my frozen grapes. These are my two favorite snacks at the moment. I love matcha also, but I only have it in the morning, not at night. And I just really enjoy this time by myself. And I think that has made me more secure in myself. There was one thing that my friend told me that honestly completely changed my life. She went to this retreat and it was all about self-love and healing. And she came back from the retreat and she said, I just want to ask you a question. I said, yeah, go ahead. And she said, who do you love the most in the world? And I'm asking you all at home right now. Who do you love the most in the world? Write it down. Have you thought of someone? How many of you have said yourself? I wrote down my mum. And she turned around and said to me, the person that you should love more than anyone in the world is yourself. And I looked at her and I thought, it's just so true. So many of us love our partners. We love our kids. We love our parents, but we don't love ourselves. Why? We are only with ourselves for the entirety of our life. So why don't we give ourselves just as much love as we give to our loved ones? Interesting one. And then there was another quote. I don't know if it was a quote or like a conversation, but I always used to tell people this who used to struggle to spend time alone. I always used to say, if you struggle to spend time alone because you don't like your own company, how can you expect someone else to like it? Right? So many of us struggle to spend time with ourselves, but we want other people to spend time with us. But how will other people want to spend time with us if we don't even want to spend time with us? And so that always makes me think like, I should want to spend time with me. I should want to do fun stuff for me. Light that candle for me. Eat that lovely food for me. Whatever it is, do things for you. And I think that's where self-care has become a bit blurred, but I think it's so, so, so important. The other thing that we need to remember is healing also involves letting go of the past. We need to remember that you're not defined by what's happened to you, but by how you choose to move forward. And trust me, you can change the way that you've been and you can move forward. So the last part is about identifying red flags and green flags. What is the difference and how do I identify them? So let's finally talk about red and green flags. And recognizing these can help you create healthier and more secure relationships. Because I wish someone told me what all the red flags were when I was either 18 or even 25. I mean, even 27 would have been fine. Okay, red flags, in my opinion, when it comes to security in relationships, is they dismiss your feelings, they don't listen or try and understand your perspective, they make you feel unsafe when you're expressing yourself, they get angry, they're dismissive, they're jealous. I mean, I'm not going to create this giant list of things. Obviously, things like they're abusive, they're narcissistic, they're horrible to you, they put you down. We won't include those because they're not really related today. But if there's any other things that I've missed when it comes to red flags, let me know in the comments because I would love to hear your experiences. Now let's talk about the fun ones where I hope you'll have more positive experiences. Green flags in relationships. They validate your emotions. Even when they don't fully understand, they're keen to understand. They're willing to have a difficult conversation. This is probably my favorite one. Having a difficult conversation with your partner is the number one most important thing because you have to learn to be uncomfortable with the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. If you're not, you're just putting on this false pretense. And where is it going to go? I don't really understand. When people say we never have harder conversations, we never argue, we never disagree on stuff, I'm like, how are you just not having these conversations? How does your relationship work? For me, I think it's because I value honesty so much. And if someone is not honest with me, if someone's not open with me, I think the relationship is fake. So it honestly just freaks me out when people say that. So for me, it's a massive, actually, red flag when someone isn't willing to have a difficult conversation. And I would say it's my number one green flag in any relationship, friendship, you know, with my parents, in my relationship, when we're willing to have difficult conversations. I actually love them. I feel like I learn so much, and I've learned so much from my partner about how different our upbringings are just because we have these really difficult conversations. Now, the last green flag, which I absolutely don't do all the time, is they take responsibility and apologize when they're wrong. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I can't say every single time I take responsibility and apologize when I'm wrong. And the truth is, the reason why I haven't done that is because I haven't actually understood. One of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the lessons in there is seek first to understand and then to be understood. When I'm triggered, I can be like a pit bull, by the way. Lots of you think I'm really nice and cute and sweet. I've told you on this podcast, never lied to you, that sometimes I can be a bit in your face, okay? And that's because I'm not seeking to understand. I'm seeking to be understood. And I'm triggered by something. I'm like, no, you just don't get it. That is when I don't take responsibility and apologize when I'm wrong. And that is something that I've had to really, really work on, is to listen to what the person is telling me, not to just assume and not to just put across my own point of view. So this point, I think, is like really, really important when it comes to green flags in relationships. Is like, take responsibility. None of us are perfect. We are all flawed human beings. And this was actually one of the points that I absolutely loved when I interviewed Anna Mather, my recent podcast. I've spoken to her twice. But one of the things that she said that made me feel less critical of myself was the fact that all of us can have toxic traits. Every single one of us on this planet can be toxic. We can have toxic traits. We can have red flags. I'm sure every single one of you at home has a red flag. I have several red flags. We all do. And I think that's why this narrative of like green flag, red flag, yellow flag, whatever is ridiculous, because we all have all of them and we need to embrace all of them. I know that everybody loved Inside Out 2. And it wasn't when I watched it that I learned this lesson. It was actually after. I was at Nichol's cousin's house. Shout out to Nikki, who actually works for Disney. And we were talking about the different emotions that were mentioned in the movie. And I said to Nicole, what emotions would you describe yourself best as? And all of us were picking like one or two. And she turned around and she said to me, but it's not about having one or two of those emotions. It's about having all of them. And so often we categorize anger, jealousy, anxiety as bad emotions. We categorize being joyful as a good emotion. And when we were describing those, I felt a bit embarrassed to say, like, anger is an emotion I have. Anxiety is an emotion that I have. And I felt proud to say, like, joy is also an emotion I have. But why? The whole point of Inside Out 2 was to show us that we all have these emotions. We need all of these emotions to function. No emotion is good or bad. And no emotion is good or bad, and no feeling is good or bad. And I think this is what is really powerful as well about having these open dialogues. It's about owning and accepting who we are. It's about embracing the fact that, yes, sometimes I do feel jealous. Sometimes I do feel angry, but I'm here to understand why. I'm here to understand the root of it and change that. And that's why in this whole podcast, I really try to emphasize the power of having these conversations with yourself first and then with your partner. So these were my top 5 lessons that I've learned from being anxiously attached to now being secure in my relationships. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it gave you some clarity and some practical tools for creating secure relationships in your life. I'd also really love to know what's helped you. I would love to know if you've taken some of these prompts and acted on them and reflected on them and then had this conversation with your partner. Please comment. I'll reply to all of your comments. And I will be back next week with a very, very exciting episode about relationships. It's a little bit different from this one because it's going to be with a divorce coach and lawyer. Sneak peek if you stay till the end. But I'm so excited to share this with you because she tells us so many valuable things. Please take care and remember, you deserve love, starting with yourself. And I will see you next week.